Hey y'all, this is Ben, and for my chemistry presentation, what I'm going to be talking about and demonstrating is the chemical process of mixing Easy Sand 90 joint compound with water to cover sheetrock joints. Yeah, so this is kind of like the lab that we chemists in the construction field work in. It's not as clean as our one back in the science hall, but these are the sort of materials that we'll be using for today's lab. You have tape, putting tape, Easy Sand 90. 90 stands for the amount of time to dry in minutes. Tray and trowel, very important. And some backup trays if those get dirty. All right, and basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take you through the process of mixing the sand with the water to get the mud. And then here, let's go and flip this around. This is the spot that we are going to wrap up right there.
The physical reaction of joint compound occurs when the dry powder is mixed with water to form a paste. This process is called a hydration, and it involves the absorption of water molecules into the gaps between the crystalline calcium sulfite molecules that converts the anhydrous, or without water, calcium sulfate into the mud that is used for patching joints. As the water mixes into the calcium sulfate, the solution becomes exothermic, which means it releases heat as the chemical bonds between the water molecules and the calcium sulfate are formed. Exothermic reactions can be driven by enthalpy, like we have discussed in class, or by many other factors. The paste formed by the joint compound can then be applied to surfaces to fill in gaps, smooth out imperfections, and create a uniform finish. As the paste dries, the water evaporates, and the hydrated calcium sulfate in the compound returns to its anhydrous form. Overall, the physical reaction of joint compound is the process of hydration, where water molecules are absorbed by the dry powder to form a paste that can be applied to the sheetrock. Presto, chemistry in action.
All right, now that we have our mudding solution, we can start applying it to the joint. And just this main joint here, I want to make sure you guys can see. Typically, all that we're going to do is we're going to start by applying it and removing it. So the first bit, that's on. All right, and now we're going to take the mudding tape.
Once we have the tape on the wall, the next thing to do is to clean your trowel off and gently scrape it across the surface of the wall. Then we can apply a thin layer of mud on top of the tape that will become our first coat for this joint. One important note when it comes to mudding your wall is that it's always better to apply less mud so that you don't have to sand as heavy in between coats.
All right, now, unfortunately, the truth of the matter is not every mudder is perfect. And when mistakes happen, they call in the sanders for jobs like this. When it comes to projects like these, the only thing that you need is a respirator and a handy dandy sandy block. Basically, the process is going to be we take our handy dandy sanding block, put it up against the wall, and you go back and forth until it's all smooth. That's all there is to it, people. Well, there you go, as you can see. As you can see, we've got some rough edges and we're going to patch them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take with one hand, I'm going to feel for smoothness, and the other hand will actually be sanding. So there's some multitasking involved. Just sit.
Breathing in sheetrock dust can be harmful to your health because it contains particles that are small enough to penetrate deep into your lungs. These particles can cause irritation, inflammation, and damage to the alveoli of the lungs and impair the exchange of O2 and CO2 across their thin cell membranes that the body requires for cellular respiration. Sheetrock dust is made of gypsum, which contains crystalline silica. When inhaled, crystalline silica particles can cause lung damage and increase the risk of developing lung cancer, silicosis, and other respiratory diseases. Furthermore, sheetrock dust may also contain other potentially harmful substances, such as asbestos, which can cause mesothelioma, a type of cancer that affects the lining of the lungs. Therefore, it's important to take precautions when working with sheetrock or any other material that produces dust. This can include wearing appropriate respiratory protection, such as a properly fitted respirator, and using proper ventilation to reduce the amount of dust in the air. Chemistry is all around us, and if we open our eyes to it, to see it happening every day, we will continue to be amazed as our knowledge and love for science grows. Now that you can use chemistry to repair your walls with joint compound, you can finally up your game when it comes to home renovating and patch any problems that come your way. Happy trails, and may both the intramolecular and intermolecular forces be with you.